So, hello and welcome to the hip clinic. I think we'll call it the hip clinic. So we're looking, oh, and here comes a cat. She's got very flexible hips. Looking today at hip flexors. So the hip flexors are the area at the front of the body which connect our legs to the body. Now I've got a mountaineering cat, apologies. But they also connect to the side, connect to the back. So sometimes people will complain about having tight hip flexors, sometimes tight hips. So the purpose of today's session is to show you how to strengthen, but also stretch the hips out. Very simple exercises. It won't take you very long to do them. However, with stretching, I'm a big believer that, doing it for 20, 30 seconds is simply not long enough. So although I'm not going to be holding these stretches for around about 2 minutes, it may be an idea for you to have a phone or a timer with you and just see what happens. The magic will start happening after 2 minutes. But that's completely up to you. Some stretching is better than no stretching. Okay, so with stretching, the big rule is you stretch to a point of mild discomfort. Don't go so far that you actually feel pain. Go to a point of mild discomfort. When I first started stretching into my hips, I got very discouraged because I thought after one set of stretching, I'm not getting any further. It does take time, and now I've really appreciated the fact that by doing regular stretching, probably 4 or 5 times a week on my hips and also my hamstrings, I've got better strength, but also flexibility in this area of my body. One of the major problems we've got these days, we spend a lot of time seated, and when we're seated, the hip flexors, particularly at the front of the body, you can see here, they're not stretched out. So these hip flexors at the front of the body become shorter, they shrink. As they shrink, they become tight. And they also become weak. So just because something is short and tight doesn't mean to say it's strong. It can become very weak. And in turn, then that can lead to pain in the groin, in the hip, in the glutes, and also sometimes in the core as well as the lower back. So hips can show in a number of different ways. If you have persistent pain in any of those areas, so please do get it checked out before you embark on a stretching program. So I'm going to show you 4 exercises to do beforehand before we move on to then 4 stretchings. So we're going to start off with squats. Not everyone's ideal, but squats will help to strengthen the glutes as well as work into the hip flexors all round. When you do a squat, standing tall, feet are slightly wider than hip distance apart. Feet are pointing forwards. And again, find your good posture. So chin is tucked, shoulder blades are back and down, and engage your core muscles. So ribs to hip connection, that's going to help you protect your lower back so the back doesn't arch unnecessarily. We're going to start off with very simple squats. So just take a tiny bend of the knees, and as the knees bend, the bottom goes behind. So small range of movement to start with. You could bring your arms out in front of you for a counterbalance. While you're here, tuck the tailbone, pull the tummy muscles in, and then standing all the way up again. So you do a number of these, firing up through the glutes to come up. And if you can do it into a mirror, just to make sure that your knees don't come further forward than the front of your toes, then you'll know you'll be having good form. Your back stays long and straight and at an angle. You can make it slightly hard by deepening the squat, so really pushing down and pushing all the way up. And you can bring your arms out in front of you, lifting the arms up so the arms are alongside your ears at the same time. Again, slow it down, work with your breath, breathing in to lower, breathing out to push back up again. So doing this slowly, again, improving glute strength, working into the whole of the hip joints within your range of movement. Eventually going lower so your thighs are parallel to the floor and pushing back up again. 2 more. So somewhere in the region, either 10 and stop, and then repeat that 3 times, or 15 and stop and repeat that twice. Nice exercise to do first thing when you get up. The second we're going to take it into, the second exercise, lunges. So from your standing position, step 1 foot out in front of you. Might be an idea to have something to hold on to alongside while you gain confidence in this. Feet are as though they're on double yellow lines, so try not to bring them in line with each other. Hips are squared off, so you don't turn to face the back leg, but hips are towards the front. So you've got little headlights on the front of your hips. Hands can be on your hips or gently on the support, and then just hinge forward slightly from the hips. Your back is straight. And from here, we're just going to take a small bend, or you can take a deeper bend. Okay, so we're working into the hip flexors. We're also getting a slight stretch out on the leg behind as well. So we're stretching and working at the same time. Keep your tummy engaged, ribs to hips, so your core is strong. So we're working into your thighs, working into your glutes, the muscles that need to be working to support your hip in day-to-day activities. And again, your repetitions could be 10, make a stop, swap legs, and then do 10 on the other side, and then repeat up to 3 times. Let's swap over now. Or you could do 15 and 2 sets. Keep a record of what you're doing, maybe a little notebook. So you know maybe the whole of 1 week you do the same number of sets. Not a term I like using in Pilates. We don't work with sets in Pilates. It's also nice to feel the stretch down the front of the back leg, if that makes sense. Again, about another 3 on this side, so you just get used to the stand and the form of what we're doing. Lovely. And then step that forward. Next exercise is going to be a plank with knee pulls. So I want you to come down safely onto the mat. Maybe you roll down, maybe just bend your knees and come down into 4-point kneeling. Have the hands flat on the floor, hands underneath shoulders and elbows, or bring your hands onto fists if you have wrist or thumb issues. Eyes gaze down towards the mat, roll your shoulders back, extend one leg out behind. You can always be on your elbows for this if you want to, although the knee pulls are then not possible. Tuck your tailbone, ribs to hips, take the other leg out to join it. From here, we're just going to pull one knee in and take it back out again. Pull one knee in and back out. So I'd recommend 5 to each side. And again, doing 2 or 3 sets of this exercise. Making sure your back doesn't arch. Tummy is engaged throughout. So you're working your hip flexors and then stretching them out in the support while the other leg is working. Last one. When you finish, drop one knee, drop the other knee. Just take it back into a child's pose, stretch your arms out and enjoy the stretch. The 4th exercise, 4th and last of the exercises, is shoulder bridge. I just want you to bring your legs out in front, feet to hip distance apart, knees to hip distance apart, roll yourself down onto the mat. Eyes looking up, chin tucked, shoulders back and down as you bring your palms to face up. Walk your heels marginally closer in towards your bottom, just so that when you come up, the knees are directly over your ankles. So this is a lovely one for stretching out the front of the body, engaging your glutes, working all the musculature in your hip. So take a breath in. As you breathe out, push your lower back down into the mat, squeeze your glutes and come up into your shoulder bridge. You breathe in here. And then slowly roll yourself all the way back down again. Shoulder bridge. Maybe 5 to 10 of those. Again, you can work in sets. 5 times 3 or 2 lots of 10. You want to take it a stage further. You come up into shoulder bridge. So to really work into your glutes, then start to squeeze the right glute as much as you can. Keep the hips level. Lift one leg into single tabletop. Lower the leg back down again and roll yourself all the way back down. Coming up into shoulder bridge, left leg, left glute tight, hips stay level, lift the right leg into single tabletop, lower back down again, and then roll yourself all the way back down again. So repeating that 2 or 3 times or up to 5 times on each side. So that range of exercises shouldn't take you too long. And then we're going to come into some of the stretches. So now you've done the exercises just to help strengthen the whole of this area. The first one we're going to come into is dragon. And this is all, I'm going to give the yin yoga names, or a low flying lunge. That would also work. Okay. So what we're looking at doing here is bringing your right leg out in front. If you have any knee issues, please place a block or a rolled up towel underneath the top part of your shin, and that will protect your knee. And I want you to see how far back you can take the back leg, but still keeping the right knee over the right ankle. You might find it's easier or more comfortable if you have your hands on blocks either side of you. So you can have your hands on blocks as support. Your right thigh is supporting your body in the forward lean. So your right hip is quite closed at the moment, it's very closed, but your left hip is open as it stretches down the front of your leg. I'm just going to hold this. This is where the timer comes in. It's patience as well. So keeping the focus on what's going on in your body. As I said at the start, work to a point of mild discomfort. If you get to the point you think, this is so painful, I can't hold it anymore, you need to come out of it, not hold that stretch any further. So you just allow yourself to sink here. And I'd be suggesting that you time this for about 2 minutes. As you go through the 2 minutes, what you might also find is that the stretch sensation or the discomfort or whatever you call these sensations in your body eases off. If that happens, bring your right hand to the inside of your right foot with a cat in tow as well. She's very, trust her to be on the vocal side on a video. So both hands are now on the inside of your right foot. From here, you might be able to lower yourself down a little bit further. So again, you could use the blocks. You could come down onto your forearms. Really take the stretch slightly deeper. Eventually, those blocks may disappear, particularly if you hold this for another 2 minutes, and you may be able to come down onto your forearms. While you're here, the right knee might just drop out to the side, just showing you from a slightly different angle. Leg dropping out to the side, really opening into the hip. That's more of an advanced move and probably wouldn't happen until you've been holding dragon for a good 4 minutes. This is dragon, or hip flexor stretch, and then, as I say, coming down onto your forearms. You'd hold that. And then after that, you come back up, walk your feet back in towards you, come into 4-point kneeling, and simply swap over to the other side. So again, just making sure all the time the knee is over the ankle and the other leg goes out behind, sliding that one away rather than taking your front foot further away. And again, holding, focusing in on your breath in all of the stretches. So encouraging a slow breath, encouraging the long, slow exhalation. So if you're doing this with these videos, then you simply pause the video while you watch your timer, let the minutes tick away, and then coming back. After you finish, you're going to come back to a seated position. So the next stretch we're going to do to open up through the hips, something called butterfly, seated butterfly. If you want to sit on a block, you can do. Otherwise, just bring the soles of your feet together. The block will just help to tilt your pelvis forward a little bit, so it's easier and more comfortable, maintain good posture throughout. Soles of the feet together, and your hands are just gently on your lower legs, around your shins, and sit as tall as you can, shoulders are back and down. I want you to think of lengthening through your back and then tilting forwards. So a tilt forwards rather than completely collapse down. So a pull forwards. As you pull on the ankles, you'll open up through the hips slightly. So you have choices. You can keep a big triangle within your legs with the feet further away, or you can start to bring the feet much closer. In both, though, keep the elbows just with some mild tension on your inner thighs. So you're sitting tall with the knees out wide. It doesn't look as though there's much flexibility in the hips, but over time and over your 2 to 3 minutes of sitting here, the knees will start to drop. And you can lean forward and apply gentle pressure on the inside of your legs. Again, it's quite meditative as you sit and you watch your feet. Feet aren't doing anything, but you can still sit and watch it. Keep breathing while you're doing this. And over time, you may find that you can start to go a little bit lower, still with your back as long as you can, rather than curling all the way forwards, and maybe take your hands round the end of your feet. This might not happen in the first session. If you're doing this exercise every day, it might take a couple of weeks, and then you'll start to really feel the benefit of it. And again, getting yourself into a position where you can feel sensations in your hips, and use your breath to simply melt into it. Again, when your timer is finished, so with this, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, even up to 4 minutes is good. You'll slowly come out of it, sitting upright. Just bring your knees, take your feet wide, and just to release off, we take a nice windscreen wiper movement on both sides. It releases off through your lower back and through your hips. They've been externally rotated, and this will allow a little bit of internal rotation as well. Coming back to center. Okay, so we've done one hip flexor stretch. Another version of that, there are two versions, is to come into a lying position, bending the knee and pulling the leg back behind you. So come down onto your side completely, or you can prop your head up and just apply some gentle pressure. So hold on to your shin, your ankle, bridge of your foot, bending at the knees. If you have knee issues, just be very careful on this one. This might not be a stretch for you. You can start off with the knee in front, just pulling on the foot, and then start to move the knee backwards until you feel the stretch through the front of your thigh muscle and into the hip flexor itself. Again, keep breathing. The underneath the leg, you can keep bent. That's not active, it's not doing anything. And just see what happens over again the course of 2 or 3 minutes as you ease back with this particular position. If at any point while you're stretching, you start to get a tremble or a shake, ease back off. It means you're holding tension. If you're holding tension in that part of your body, the body will not allow itself to stretch. It may be that you want to place a block between your knees for a little bit of extra support and then go from the move there. So you're not encouraging the body to hold tension by keeping the leg elevated. Again, 2 or 3 minutes. You can also do this stretch standing up if you don't like lying down. That would be another option. And then you would release, roll over and do the other side. The fourth stretch for your hips is what I call a figure of 4 stretch. It's one that we quite often do in a class. You lie onto your back, feet hip distance apart, and simply lift up your right foot and place your right ankle over your left thigh. If you have a cat that can settle on your stomach, even better, it's very calming. From here, that's enough for the first 30 seconds or so, just to allow the hip to relax. And after that, you can bring your hands behind the back of your right thigh and pull the leg in. Okay, so this is going to increase the stretch around the top of your glutes, into the hip joint. The hip is open, you're opening into your hip. Again, I'd spend a minute or so here. Then with the right leg crossed over and holding onto the back of your left leg, you could start to just move your left leg out to the left slightly. And that's going to increase the stretch down the back and the side of the hip on the right. If you don't like lying down, you have an aversion to that, you can do the same stretch but in a seated position. So you come back onto your elbows in the half reclining position. And again, this time you just start to push yourself up, arms out behind, and that will do the same job. So the legs are still crossed, still working at stretching into the hip. And you can keep adjusting, walk your hands in a little bit further, feel the stretch, feel the hip just giving. And as you work with your breath, a long, slow exhalation on the breath and trying to release any residual tension in the leg, in your hip. That's your focus. So just spend 3 minutes or so focusing on not holding tension. It can be quite a mental challenge. If you think about it as breathing in, and then as you breathe out, just push into the stretch a little bit more. You'll notice if you're holding tension because there'll be an area of your body which starts to shake. And then release. So those are the 4 stretches that I would recommend for opening up through your hips. So a dragon and variations of dragon, the seated butterfly with the legs out in front, side lying, pulling, just relaxing or stretching through the front of your legs and your hip flexors. And then also the figure of 4, whether you do it lying down or whether you do it in that seated position so you can push up and use a little bit of, not momentum, but you're more in control. Some people prefer it seated, some people prefer it lying down. So your choice. And then of course there's always other yin yoga poses in a yin yoga class that would help you open up through your hips and really be controlled for that length of time. So timer. What you're looking at doing then is for the exercises itself, 5 of the exercises and then do 3 sets. So that actual range of those 4 exercises, squats, lunges, planks and knee pulls and the bridge, wouldn't take you too long. It's more important then to get the 4 stretches in, and with both sides to do. If you were holding for 3 minutes on each side, there'd be 6 minutes on dragon. There would be another 3 minutes on butterfly. And then your side lying and your figure 4. So a total of about 22 minutes of stretching. If you can find 22 minutes, your hips will like you for it. When I used to sit cross-legged, my knees were right out at the side, and now I'm more comfortable with the knees down. And that's all come through doing that amount of stretching. So enjoy the stretches for your hips. There's also going to be a video on hamstrings. Thank you very much. Preferably maybe with a cat as well. She's joining in big time. Thank you.